Hi, I'm Femi OK and you're in the stream. Today, a renegade Libyan general is taking on religious hardliners and militias in Benghazi. He promises to impose stability, but do Libyans trust him? So our digital producer Malika Bilal looking out for your live feedback as always. We have a Libyan community very active online.
Very.
What are they talking about?
Well, public support online for General Khalifa Haftar seems to be pretty split down the middle. People either love him or they loathe him. So we're seeing images shared like this. Sarah tweets, this is the first image received from Benghazi protests supporting the general's Operation Dignity. You see them in the streets there. And then there's also tweets like this from Sundus who says, wake up people, do you really want a Gaddafi #2? Showing a picture of the former Colonel Muammar Gaddafi and Haftar with their faces crossed out. So we want your views on this as well. Tweet us with #AJStream to start the conversation. But before we get started, here are a couple of today's trending hashtags.
The emergence of a renegade general in Libya and his self-declared Libyan National Army is increasing tensions in the country. The European Union envoy describes the situation as being the worst crisis since 2011 and the fall of Muammar Gaddafi. Retired General Khalifa Haftar has launched Operation Dignity against religious hardliners and militias in and around the city of Benghazi. He accuses Libya's General National Congress, or GNC, of failing to curb the influence of armed groups and says that their legitimacy, I'm going to quote him here, has ended. Many support the general, including the commander of the Air Force, the country's UN ambassador, and some tribal leaders. But critics and the GNC condemned his actions as a coup attempt. Parliamentary elections have now been set for June the 25th, but with General Haftar vowing to continue the fight against militias and the GNC, is he saving Libya's political process or maybe undermining it? To help us talk about this, we're joined by Osama Kuba. He's a political analyst with the Strategic Studies Centre and former Vice President of the Supreme Council of Libyan Revolutionaries. Ayman Greda is a Libyan nationalist and co-founder of the Libyan Youth Voices Project. Ayat Manena is founder of the Shabab Libya, the Libyan youth movement, and Bilal Betama is a social media activist in Benghazi. Great to have you all here in the stream. I've been trolling through Bilal's Twitter feed just to get a sense of what it might be like to live in Benghazi, as Bilal currently does. So I started off here on my laptop here, going through his Twitter feed. Bilal, there was a graphic that just leapt out at me. It says here, the key is in red, what I don't understand about what's going on in Libya, and then in blue, what I do understand about what's going on in Libya. And there you have the pie chart. So I'm glad it's not just me, but in sense of daily life and what's happening right now, how would you describe it to us as an international audience? Bilal.
It's really hard. It's sometimes it's depressing, sometimes it's good, sometimes some things give you hope, and sometimes you just gotta live with it. That's Libya for you.
So that's emotion, but that's not telling me anything about your life. Living conditions. Let me prompt you a little bit here. Again, back to your Twitter feed. Keeping the window open just in case there's a boom I need to tweet. Hashtag things we do in Benghazi. Tell me about other things you do in Benghazi.
Other things. You try to be open-minded and you try to be communicating with everyone and with the rebels, with Haftar's army and with everyone. But with bullets and rockets falling literally on our heads, it's really tough. And you have to take sides. And sometimes you can't. I can't trust Haftar himself. I can't. I don't want militias ruling my country. So it's really difficult at times. and other things. We try to adapt. We try to live. Like 7 hours ago, a few blocks from my office, a journalist just got murdered, assassinated, just because he went on TV last night and he spoke about extremists and thanked Haftar and trusted the dignity operation.
So we have militia, we have assassinations. Ayat, the last time you were on the stream, we were talking about militias roaming around, definitely Tripoli and also parts of Benghazi as well. How has that situation changed, if at all?
I think now it's kind of more divided than it ever was. We have militias who have effectively enrolled in Operation Dignity and joined Haftar's campaign, and we have militias who their agenda is clearly to continue the instability and are opposing this. And in some cases, they are the target of Operation Dignity. So it's not any clearer than it was before, but the fact that we are now going to be tackling what has been labeled as terrorism is something that gives people of Benghazi and people in Libya something to cling to because of the unfortunate situation that has continued to deteriorate over time. They feel that they have no other options but to support this.
Well, Osama, in talking about the environment that led to this, there are a few Libyans weighing in online. This is a tweet from Suleiman who says, the pressure that Libyans find themselves under is due to the ticking time bomb that he says terrorist groups like Ansar al-Sharia, one of the Islamist groups growing in power there. Another person writes in, since Gaddafi's overthrow, Libya has been in a state of limbo, and Haftar presents a possibility to change this. Osama, is that your view as well? Do you think that he has risen because of the state of limbo that Libya sees itself in?
Well, certainly some people see Haftar as a straw that they might really hang into to pull them out of this disarray or the chaotic situation of Libya, especially in Benghazi. But it's certainly the vast majority of Libyans, they are really, they do disagree with Haftar. Haftar is not really the right person because of his bloody history. He's not going to be really a saint now and pull Libya out of this disarray. In fact, he's really a major part of the current disarray. And I disagree with Ayat when she said that about this Operation Dignity, that the Libyan national army is fighting it. No, it's not really. In fact, Haftar is leading militia currently, and the freedom fighters or the rebels, as Bilal stated, these they do really enlist under the Libyan official army. They belong to the Riyasat al-Arkan, which is the
official army doesn't attack the GNC. It doesn't attack the General Congress.
Bilal,
to enforce the law. That's not an army. That's not
the current government, the elected parliament. Bilal, the current government and the elected parliament that is leading the country right now, they issued statements in the media that Haftar is acting outside the legitimacy. Haftar is not really leading the national army to clean up Benghazi from the terrorists. In fact, what Haftar is doing, it is basically the sort of terrorism. You cannot really counterattack terrorists by shelling missiles on innocent families and people. And you know, you live in Benghazi, and you know Gwarsha and Sidi Faraj is being hit by rockets every night from Haftar and Haftar thugs. This is insanity as it is.
But that is no different from the situation that is kind of overcome in the city for the past 2 years, where assassinations are taking place. Ansar al-Sharia has been active, and people are in dangerous situations regardless. So he's presenting a potential solution. The government could have gotten...
No, he's not.
Osama, just hold tight for a moment, just so I can finish her thought, and then we'll come back to you. Ayat, continue.
This was an opportunity presented to the government and to the people of Libya to potentially combat the situation. Instead, we have the government at odds with Operation Dignity, and instead of allowing for Operation Dignity to combat terrorism, we are now just fighting another battle on the side. And again, security continues to deteriorate. Journalists are being assassinated. It's not a
like,
solution.
who
And the government
legitimized
plays a
Operation
role in that
Dignity?
problem.
Ayat,
No, but the government plays a role in the problem as well.
Who legitimized Operation Dignity? The
The
government
people
didn't
did.
really
The
issue.
people did. The people stood behind it.
Okay.
And,
So
and
now,
if we're talking about
now
democracy and legitimacy,
yeah.
we're talking about people.
Don't we have political system in Libya that's the government and the parliament,
So
and these are
The same political,
Yes, I'm
the
just
same
going to
political
ask you
system
to.
that gave the,
Yes, I'm
the
just going to
rebels
ask
or the
you all to
militias
take
900
Bilal.
million.
Bilal, give me a moment here, because we're talking about Operation Dignity, and I want to make sure that we're all on the same page here. I want to play a little bit where General Haftar was actually saying, I'm launching this operation, this is what I'm thinking. So let's hear from him first, and then we'll go back to the community and then come back to you.
اليوم بدأت معركة الوطنية.
Today, the National Army launched a national battle to defend our nation, the people, and the lives of our officers who are being assassinated. This is not a coup against the state, and we are not seeking power or authority, and we are not hindering the course of democracy. The blood of Libyans is sacred, and we don't want Libyans to resort to arms. But terrorists wanted there to be a battle, so let it be an honorable one.
So that's General Haftar explaining why he launched Operation Dignity. That was back on May the 16th. Malika, what's our community saying?
Well, since then, we have seen people out in the streets protesting, and those who say they are in support of Operation Dignity. Now, I want to pick up on something that you said, Ayat, which was that he has the people behind him. We got this tweet from Muhannad. He said, Friday demonstrations, the ones I was just mentioning, they indicated support for Haftar's mission, Operation Dignity, targeting terrorism, but not for him specifically. So Ayman, I want your thoughts on that, because while our other guests were talking, you were shaking your head. I want to know what you're thinking, and do you agree that this is not specifically support for Haftar, but support for his operation?
Well, first of all, let me emphasize this, that the GNC already lost its legitimacy after the mandate expired in February. Number two, the GNC is not just failed to meet the obligations of Libyan people, but also some members in the GNC backed these rogue militias and backed Islamist militias in the east by not standing against them. 3 years of string of assassinations targeted almost 540 military personnel, police, journalists, political activists, judges, and all of whom they share one thing: they're against the Muslim Brotherhood. That's the reality. It's not a coup, because General Haftar, he already stated that he requested the Supreme Judicial Council to appoint a crisis government. This refutes any bogus claim that he is willing to grab power using military force. So the thing is, it's just an act of patriotism. He gained the support of the military units, Libyan special forces, popular support on the ground, and 40 members of GNC already pledged support to him. Former Prime Minister Ali Zidane already supported him, and the Minister of Culture, Al-Habib Lamin, declared support to him,
So I feel that we actually got Ayman's point very clearly, so much so that Osama was smiling all the way through it. Osama, what's behind that smile? Why are you laughing?
I mean, I'm really surprised that a person like Ayman lives in the United States and he says that the current parliament lost its legitimacy on February 7th. I mean, there is a roadmap, and there were milestones there were not really fulfilled. If you say the parliament lost legitimacy, then the parliament, who's going to hand its power to? Like, will they leave the country in disarray and in a vacuum? This is not acceptable. I'm talking common sense here, and I hope everyone will look at it from a common sense point of view. So it was
Osama, if I may, let's just be very candid here. So the GNC do have support of certain militias because they need them, because there's so many assassinations. It's so violent right now around Tripoli. And then also we have General Haftar, who also has support of other militias. So we've got militias fighting militias. That is mayhem, right?
I totally agree with you, but we need to agree on one thing, okay? is there legitimacy in the country or not? If there is no legitimacy in the country, then everything is chaotic and everyone is militia and everyone is fighting everyone. And it is a civil war. This is how we're going to call it.
Is it not a civil war though? Are we not seeing basically a civil war happening right now?
No, what I'm trying to say here, like if we agree that there is legitimacy in the country, because what Ayman is saying
it's not a civil war.
That there is no legitimacy in the country.
Yes, I agree, Haftar is a militia, but the official army, the special forces in Benghazi, the Navy, the Air Force, all supported his decision. Yes, I don't trust Haftar. I think his people are militia.
No, Bilal.
We have the official army.
Not everyone supporting Haftar in the army.
So, Osama, allow Bilal to finish his point, please.
It's not a coup. You can't call it a coup. Haftar is not leading a coup. Yes, I don't trust him. I don't trust his militia. At the same time, we have the official army doing an operation against terrorism. They're attacking Ansar Sharia. They're attacking other extremists. We cannot call that a coup. Yes, attacking the National General Congress a coup. But at the same time, the rebels did it before to enforce the isolation law.
Okay, so I hear that difference of opinion. We're not all going to get on the same page with it is a coup, it's not a coup. So let's go back to community for a moment.
Well, I will tell you, this is quite a challenge in keeping up with the conversation as it changes, because online it's changing just as fast. So someone is picking up on what you talked about, the militias being led by both sides in this really. Imad says, he, speaking of Khalifa Haftar, is fighting terrorism and militias, which is good, but he's using militias to do just that. Now, Ayat, another person, sent us a video comment, and this is a little bit of criticism. I'd like you to have a listen to this and let me know what you think.
Is Haftar a saviour? Let's look at the facts. He was part of Gaddafi's coup team that overthrew King Idris in 1969. Furthermore, during the 2011 revolution, he didn't really get involved in the fighting against Gaddafi, but he did stockpile the weapons and ammunition which he received from abroad, which he has since used against the GNC, the only elected Libyan representation, and against the Libyan revolutionaries who fought against Gaddafi's brigade. So, I mean, in my eyes, he can only be a traitor and should be dealt with as such.
Well, Ayat, I wanted your thoughts on that, but as the video was playing, Ayman was shaking his head pretty vociferously. So, Ayman, would you like to chime in?
Yes, General Haftar, Major General Haftar, he's a part of the formal Libyan military establishment. Same like Abdel Fattah Yunus, who was assassinated presumably by radical Islamist group. The problem is not about Haftar as a person or Abdel Fattah Yunus as a person. The problem is we have groups that they don't recognize the concept of national state. Their ideology is incompatible with democracy and with nation state. What we call, it's so-called the political Islam, which is like a wide array from radicals to moderates, all of them, they have the same goal, but they have different strategies. They aspire a caliphate state that extends from Afghanistan to Morocco. This is incompatible with the nation state. The Ansar Sharia designated as a terrorist group by the United States. Basically, they are criminals who undermine the sovereignty of the country. So there's no question about what Haftar is doing. What he's doing, he's fulfilling his national duty as a Libyan soldier, as a part of the Libyan army. He's not militia.
So Ayman, why is it that he tends to polarize opinion and people start to bring up things that happened in the past, back in the 80s, and what happened in various conflicts then? What is it about him that polarizes opinion?
I think it's negative campaign launched by a specific group in GNC. Let me be accurate about it. The Muslim Brotherhood and their partners, because of the fact he stated that he wants to clean Libya out of the Muslim Brotherhood, and he considered them a threat to the sovereignty of the country.
Yeah. All right. So Ayat, go ahead. Point. Yeah.
I think the question is valid surrounding who he is as a personality, but the fact is people on the ground feel that the situation has deteriorated to such an extreme, and the GNC plays a heavy role in that, and they haven't taken responsibility for it, and so people are willing to trust just about anyone. The question is, the role that is coming after this is that Libyans cannot continue to be passive actors in their country and need to take ownership of their country and of the revolution that they started. So yes, people are skeptical of what he may do after, but we also have to remember that civil society needs to play a huge role, media needs to play a huge role, and institutions need to be developed to protect the country from falling into, say, something like a military dictatorship afterwards. We have to deal with that when we come to it. But right now, security is the only thing that people can think about.
Well, I love that last line, that security is the only thing people can think about, because we got this question from Hind online. She's Libyan, not living in Libya at the moment. She says, one question for our guests is, if you had to choose, what's more important, safeguarding democratic institutions or establishing security in Libya? And Bilal, since you're in Libya now, what would your answer be to Hind's question?
That's why I don't support Haftar. I believe that his intentions aren't as good as he stated. But at the same time, yes, I support security. At the same time, not at the price of democracy we just gained and we just sacrificed our lives for. So we need not both at the same time. We need security to establish democracy. We can't lose sight of democracy. At the same time, we need security to establish it.
So I'm just looking here from a quote from General Khalifa Haftar. He says, I am not looking at this operation as part of a future presidential bid. This is to be decided in the future, and I will not talk about a presidential bid now. But we have elections coming up on June the 25th of summer. How does this Operation Dignity, what impact might that have on the upcoming elections?
No, we have to be clear here. Okay, Haftar is trying to stop this election, and he made a statement in the media that he doesn't really like to go for this election. So this is clear. Haftar would like to stop the train of the democracy in Libya. Secondly, I just want to answer Ayman. Haftar does not belong to the Libyan army. Haftar is retired from the Libyan army. He's a 76 years old person. So now he's coming from retirement and leading militia, okay, to fight terrorism, as he said. This is absolutely insanity, and this is not acceptable. And let me say this. Let me say this before I just hand it in to you, Ayman, or to anyone else. I personally against terrorism, and there is no every wise person against terrorism. We are with building a strong army forces in Libya, a strong security agencies in Libya. We are after that. We all want to do that. But what Haftar is doing, he's really using terrorism to counter so-called terrorism.
Osama, I hear your point. Let's share it with Ayman because we're wrapping up this part of the show. Ayman, very briefly, go ahead.
Yeah, there is no question that there are terrorist groups in the East and they have political backers inside the GNC. The thing is, what we need now is to restore security, then resume the democratic process. Of course, that seems like a democracy backslide, temporary, but what I think it's like just one step backward, reposition, and two steps forward. We cannot have elections and militias. We cannot have elections when there are people who just they
the
don't
one that you
recognize.
call militia are the one who really protected the democracy process. The militia that you're calling them militia are the one who safeguarded the boxes to do the first election for the current parliament and to save the new process.
And they are the one who undermined democracy by forcing the political.
No, they did not.
Gentlemen, just take a breath for a moment, because I do also hear Ayat chiming in. Ayat, I'm going to give you the last word. What were you trying to say?
The point that militias are the ones safeguarding democracy. If we're going to go that route, we can also mention that militias prevented democracy from taking place, prevented the Constitutional Committee of 60 being voted in on in Darna and in the south, and in regions where security is not guaranteed. Again, how can you have democracy if you don't have security? They're not mutually exclusive. They come together, and we need to all stand united for that.
Can you back up your claims? Can you back up your claims?
So, gentlemen, just hold tight for a moment. Hold tight for a moment, because we're literally at the very end of the program. So I'm going to take you all to the post show, stream.aljazeera.com, because there's more conversation to be had, obviously. Malika.
I'll give the last word to Nada on Twitter. She says the priority in Benghazi, and I would add across Libya now, is security, no matter who's providing it.
Okay. So, stream.aljazeera.com. We'll talk about Libya. We'll talk about Operation Dignity, which has been launched by the renegade General Khalifa Haftar, and what impact that may or may not have on the current situation in Libya. If you want to be part of that conversation, it's not too late. Malika is scouring her laptop, #AJStream, and you too can be part of that conversation. In the meantime, let me tell you about the next program, Pakistan's battle to stop polio. We'll hear about the extreme threats that health workers are facing to try to eradicate the disease. Stay with us. You know where we'll be, online at stream.aljazeera.com. Thanks for watching. Hello, this is the Stream's online post show. We've been talking about a renegade general in Libya who's promising to impose stability after years of chaos. There's something that Ayat said that really resonated with me. There aren't many places in the world where you can say this, though. You can't have democracy without security, and where you actually really understand what that actually means. If you chose one before the other, Ayat, which order would you do it in?
Security is, in my eyes, the definition is so that things are stable enough and safe, so that people feel that they have the ability to exercise their right to vote. I don't see them as mutually exclusive whatsoever.
Right. And I just want to. I want to go back and revisit this because I asked Bilal about this, but he lives it every day. I don't think he appreciates how difficult his life is for us as outsiders. He just gets on with it and has to live his life. But if you talk about security, Ayat, what do you literally mean if you're living in Libya right now?
Can I interrupt this?
It better be good, but you
Yeah.
may. Yes.
I just heard an explosion. What kind of democracy can we live in if I'm hearing an explosion every day?
Right.
And I didn't even panic. You can watch me on TV.
Right.
I didn't even panic. I didn't
You didn't flinch.
What kind of democracy can we have in this situation?
Right. Okay. That kind of answers that. Malika.
There's a tweet here from Suleiman who asks or brings up really an interesting point that I do want your thoughts on, guests. Suleiman says, this is the right cause, it's the wrong man. Let's hope for the best. So, Osama.
Absolutely.
Well, can you elaborate then? And then who is the right man or woman? Who is the right person?
Well, I really don't know who the right person in Libya to lead a battle against terrorism. But there must be like many other people among who fought battles against Gaddafi, and I think in the defense ministry they do have few of those. But it is certainly the wrong person. Like Haftar, his history is really bloody history. He is the one who led a court in 1986 to convict 3 civilians in Benghazi to death. He was until 2005 and 2006 in close relationship with Gaddafi, and he received a big villa, and he was living in it in Egypt from Gaddafi, and he was on the payroll of Gaddafi, and he used to receive chunk of money from Gaddafi. It is definitely the wrong person to lead such noble cause.
So here's what I'm hearing is that you really do not like this former general. You don't feel he should be in the position that he's in. But this has been going on, the situation with the militias has been going on in Libya pretty much for the last 3 years. What else do you suggest? Isn't this not a desperate measure for a desperate situation?
No, it's not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. Like, let me tell you this. Now, okay, let me tell you this. Now, Haftar is shelling Benghazi with missiles. Did you see Ansar Sharia or any other militia shelling the city with missiles? Is this the proper way how to fight terrorism? And shelling missiles on civilians, it's not really on compounds where those militia lives in or stays in. This is insanity as we speak. I mean, if you need to fight terrorism, you need to go to the places where you think terrorists are, and then you fight them. Don't shell from a distance missiles on innocent people.
So it's the tactics that you're upset with, not the fact that he's taking on the militias or the other militias, because he's also one.
As I said, the cause is a noble cause, and Benghazi is really suffering, greatly suffering. And personally, I'm against terrorism, and we need to uproot terrorism because. All
right, so Osama, you made that point very clearly. I didn't quite hear Ayat when she was going to jump in. Ayat, go ahead.
I was just going to say Ansar al-Sharia may not have fired Grad missiles in response, but they have been active every single day in the streets of Benghazi up until most recently today, as Bilal said, where a journalist was assassinated for speaking out on TV. So they are present and they are a problem, and you admit that. So the problem is that
are you accusing Ansar al-Sharia now? Do you have evidence, Ayat, that Ansar al-Sharia are the one who really assassinated this person? I mean, come on, guys.
Designated by the United States as a terrorist group. Do you question this? You don't.
I don't question this. I'm saying about the journalist who was killed today. I mean, why are we really accusing people without having evidence?
All right, so this is upsetting for me if I was a Libyan living in Libya and hearing this conversation, because as Bilal was saying, a bomb went off and he didn't even flinch. Let's go back to the community.
Because we're talking about Ansar al-Sharia, this group, Bilal, another Bilal, tweeted us, Ansar al-Sharia are a problem in Libya, but he, meaning General Haftar, is a bigger threat to security, freedom, and rule of law. So Bilal, I actually want to go to you with this, because I think I know your thoughts on this already, and shifting gears here, off of the back of this, you see Ansar al-Sharia on one hand and Operation Dignity on the other hand. Are we dividing us into two false binaries? Is it more than just Ansar al-Sharia? Is this being lumped as Islamists in one group?
We can't hear you, Bilal.
It looks like we lost Bilal.
Yes.
Did you hear the question?
Yeah. So there's no question that Ansar al-Sharia is a terrorist group. Also in Tunisia, the Tunisian government designated Ansar al-Sharia in Tunis as a terrorist group as well. And they're all connected. They have links to Al-Qaeda. Their ideology originally stems for the Muslim Brotherhood. They have the Sayyid Qutb version and Hassan al-Banna version. So anyway, what I want to emphasize that terrorism is not just a national problem, it's national and international problem. And take it or leave it. Major General Haftar is taking a leadership role, and I want to quote Thomas Paine when he said, lead, follow, or get out of the way, you know? So if you can,
I can assure you, General Haftar is a no one. He is not effective, and he really, all what he can do just throw missiles. He is a coward person. He cannot really have 1 meter ground in Benghazi, and Bilal can testify for this.
He launched an attack on 2 militia camps, Islamist militia camps, and 2 Afallas Hati and 17 February. Plus the Ansar al-Sharia gangs, they're using human shields. They are inside the streets. It's a different type of war.
Okay, so gentlemen, I'm just going to ask you to hold tight for a moment. Both of you take a pause here, because we're running out of time, and I don't want you to go back and forth anymore. I hear where you have the disagreement, but we have elections coming up on June the 25th in Libya. In any other situation, it would seem unusual that you could even hold an election in this kind of atmosphere. How is that even possible, Osama? How do you have elections in a situation where people don't even have security?
Trust me, you see, the most problematic place is Benghazi. And it has been, since the revolution started, Benghazi is basically the heart for all this, or for the revolution in Libya. The so-called militia, or I call them the freedom fighters, as they safeguarded the election for the parliament, they are capable of safeguarding this coming election. You see, what you call the revolution, what you call militia, and everyone here is calling them militia, are the one who really standing behind the democratic process in Libya. Okay, right. So this is something that everyone needs to understand.
every state needs to have a national army. You cannot rely on militias. We need to monopolize power. The
we cannot stop democracy. We cannot stop democracy for the sake of having other people to do other business. The international community.
Osama, take a breath for a moment so I can hear Ayman.
Do you need a real state or just a chaos? Every national state should have a national army that monopolizes the military power. You cannot have like militias here and militias there and fights among them all the time because of tribal and regional issues. That's not the way. Okay, at the beginning, the transitional period, those freedom fighters, they did good job in like protecting the democracy process, but now their role is done. Now it's the time for the building the state, formal national army, formal security apparatus, protect the sovereignty of the country, restore security, and resume democratic process. That's the way.
All right, so Osama and Ayman, I'm just going to ask you just to take a pause for a moment because we've heard a lot from you, but I do want to go back to Ayat here. You said that there was some public support around Operation Dignity. How do you know that?
Well, last Friday, there was protests all across the country in various cities that came out in support. And to everyone's surprise, there were few people holding a banner with Haftar's picture on it, but many people that came out in the cry for dignity, in Karama. So people did rally behind the cause, as everyone here agrees, the noble cause. But the question surrounding when we want this cause to come to the forefront, Osama believes that we need to stick to democracy and ignore security for now, and other people want security first. And it's going to be that contest, it seems, that's going to be the debate around on the ground. And unfortunately, we can't afford to have that for much longer.
And you do a lot of reporting, so you're not necessarily physically in Libya, but you're reporting on Libya all of the time. So with this Operation Dignity, do you get a sense of, okay, this might be the thing that cracks the security issue in Libya? Do you get that sense, or is it another, more mayhem?
I definitely am pleasantly surprised by the unity that it has been allowed for Libyans to rally behind as a cause, and I think that's what we need to see moving forward. Its success is really dependent on how people in the actors in the country react. The GNC really could have jumped on board and supported something like this, but what they're saying now is that terrorism doesn't matter to us, and our process, however exclusive it is our primary concern.
Interesting. Militia.
I'll give a closing word to Hajj Libya on Twitter. We asked our community if they were in Libya and what has life been like post-Gaddafi. And this person wrote in, freedom, but with insecurity, beautiful nationalism, but sad from continuing unrest. Of course, if you're in Libya, we'd also like to hear from you as well. So you can continue to tweet us with hashtag AJStream.
And in this conversation, we've had Bilal Betema, Ayman Grada, Ayat Manena, and also Osama Kuba. Thank you very much for being part of this conversation. We appreciate your time today. On the next AJ Stream show, Pakistan's war against polio. We'll hear about the extreme threats that some health workers are facing as they try to eradicate the disease. But that is another discussion for another day. Thanks for watching. Take care.